For most of my life, I believed I was lucky in love, lucky in friendship, lucky in the small, quiet ways life sometimes blesses people. My husband Daniel and I had been married for 6 years. We met in a bookstore of all places. I was standing in the mystery section trying to reach a novel on the top shelf when a tall stranger behind me casually grabbed it and handed it to me. "That one's good," he said with a warm smile, "but the ending will make you angry." That stranger was Daniel. From that moment on, everything between us seemed easy. We talked for hours that day, had coffee together, and by the end of the week we were already inseparable. He was thoughtful, funny, and incredibly patient. The kind of man who remembered small details about you, like how I hated onions or how I always needed a blanket when watching movies. When he proposed 3 years later, I said yes without hesitation. Standing next to me at the altar on my wedding day was my best friend, Emily, and I had known each other since college. She was the loud, confident friend who could make everyone laugh in seconds. While I was quiet and cautious, she was bold and fearless. We balanced each other perfectly. She helped me pick my wedding dress, organized my bridal shower, and cried during my vows, like she was my actual sister. That's why I never imagined she would one day become the reason my entire life fell apart. It happened on an ordinary Thursday evening. Daniel had just come home from work and went straight to the bathroom to take a shower. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The house was quiet except for the sound of running water from the bathroom. His phone was lying on the kitchen counter near the fruit bowl. Normally, I never touched it. Not because he forbade me, but because I believed trust meant respecting each other's privacy. But then his phone suddenly lit up with a notification. I wasn't even trying to look at it, but the screen was facing me, and the name on the notification made my heart pause for a second. Emily, at first. I smiled. Emily and Daniel sometimes talked about planning surprises for me, especially around birthdays or holidays. I assumed it was something like that. But when my eyes moved to the message preview, my smile slowly faded. It read, "I missed last night already. I wish we didn't have to hide this." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood the message. Hide what? I stared at the phone, hoping another message would appear explaining everything, but nothing came. My hands started trembling. Slightly. No, I told myself. There must be another explanation. Maybe Emily sent the message to the wrong person. But the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. Without fully realizing what I was doing, I picked up Daniel's phone. My heart was beating faster now. Daniel had never hidden his passcode from me, so unlocking the phone took only a second. When the chat opened, my entire world shattered. There were dozens, no, hundreds of messages between Daniel and Emily, and they weren't innocent conversations. They were flirting, joking, talking about missing each other, talking about secret meetings. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the messages. Then I saw one that made my stomach twist painfully. Daniel had written, "She has no idea about us. They were talking about me." Tears blurred my vision, but I kept reading. Part of me hoped there would be some explanation, something that proved this wasn't real, but instead, the messages became worse. Then I saw another message from Daniel. "Tomorrow at the hotel again?" Emily replied seconds later. "Yes, same room as last time." At that exact moment, the bathroom door opened. Panic rushed through me. I quickly locked the phone and placed it back on the counter just as Daniel walked into the kitchen. "Hey," he said casually, drying his hair with a towel. "What smells so good?" "Pasta," I replied. Forcing my voice to sound normal, he walked over and kissed my forehead like he always did. "Thank you," he said softly. I stood there frozen. How could someone betray you so deeply and still act so normal? That night, Daniel behaved exactly the same as always. He asked about my day. We watched television together at one point. He wrapped his arm around my shoulders and pulled me closer. "You know I love you, right?" he said. My chest tightened. "Of course," I replied quietly. But inside, something in me had already broken. I didn't confront him that night. Instead, I decided I needed to see the truth with my own eyes. The next morning, Daniel told me he had an important meeting and would be home late. "Don't wait up for me," he said while putting on his jacket. I smiled politely. "Good luck with your meeting." But the moment he left the house, I grabbed my keys and followed him. My heart pounded the entire time. For 30 minutes, I drove behind his car, staying far enough so he wouldn't notice. Finally, he pulled into the parking lot of a small hotel across town. Seeing that building felt like a punch to my chest. Daniel stepped out of his car and walked inside without hesitation. 10 minutes later, I gathered the courage to follow. The hotel lobby was quiet and dimly lit. My legs felt weak as I approached the reception desk. "I'm looking for my husband," I said softly. "I think he just checked in." The receptionist looked uncomfortable, but after hearing my story, she quietly told me the room number, room 214. The hallway felt endless. Every step toward that door made my heart race faster. When I reached the room, I heard laughter inside. A woman's laugh. Emily. For a moment, I nearly turned around, but I forced myself to stay. I knocked on the door. The laughter immediately stopped. A few seconds later, the door slowly opened. Emily stood there, and when she saw me, the color drained from her face. Behind her, Daniel looked like he had just seen a ghost for several seconds. None of us spoke. Then Daniel finally tried to talk. "Listen, this isn't what it looks like." Emily began crying. But strangely, I didn't feel anger. I felt calm, almost numb. I took out my phone and pressed record. Their faces turned pale instantly. "Don't worry," I said quietly. "My lawyer will love this." Daniel looked terrified because he suddenly realized something. For months, he thought he was fooling me, but what he didn't know was that I had already noticed changes in his behavior. The late nights, the secretive phone calls. The sudden distance. I didn't want to believe he was cheating, but I had quietly started preparing myself. What Daniel never realized was that most of our assets were legally under my name: the house, the savings, even a large portion of his business investments. And now, thanks to this moment, I finally had undeniable proof of his betrayal. I didn't stay to hear their excuses. I turned around and walked out. When I stepped outside the hotel, the cool evening air hit my face. My marriage was over. My best friend was gone. But strangely, I didn't feel completely broken, because sometimes the people you trust the most betray you in ways you never imagined. But sometimes that betrayal doesn't destroy you. Sometimes it sets you free.